Hello to you on YouTube. So glad that you're tuning in. And today's theme is freedom. And when we think about freedom, images of wide open spaces or breaking physical chains often come to mind. Yet, true freedom encompasses more than just physical liberation. It extends into emotional, mental, and spiritual realms. The essence of freedom lies in the ability to express oneself authentically, to make choices aligned with one's true nature, and to pursue dreams without restraint. We might think of freedom as the ability to do whatever we want, whenever we want. And that is certainly one way of defining freedom. But if we delve deeper, we might see that freedom is more nuanced, with varying factors underlying the concept of freedom itself and how to achieve it. One thing that comes to mind is agency and what I can control. While I am free to speak or behave in any way that I like, most likely I will not be free from the consequences that come with those actions. So freedom in this regard does not necessarily mean I am fully uninhibited. A second thing that comes to mind is freedom of choice, which, while coveted, can cause anxiety in some situations. A mundane example is to walk undecided into the cereal aisle of the grocery store. I see some of you have been there, yes. There are shelves upon shelves of a dizzying array of brands and shapes and colors and costs. And while I don't want to be told what kind of cereal to eat, the freedom of choice in this instance makes my life slightly more difficult. So what if there were less choices, making my freedom to choose a cereal simpler? Now, we're talking about an inconsequential thing like breakfast preferences, which is clearly different than, say, having freedom to choose where to live or to follow a career path. But regarding cereal and many other everyday decisions, we are talking about the spiritual principle of simplicity. Simplicity can look like structure and routine for some folks, which narrows the choices down of the day to a point where it makes it less overwhelming and easier to stay focused on what's important, necessary, and healthy. Freedom, in a spiritual sense, is the liberation from bondage, whether to sin or fear or ignorance or self-centered desires, so that one can live in alignment with a higher power's will and purpose. It is not merely the absence of rules or the ability to do whatever one wants, but the capacity to choose what is true, what is good, what is loving. That capacity to choose what is true, good, and loving is the ultimate freedom. But how do we attain that capacity? On the journey of recovery, it is not only the physical well-being of a person that is important, but also their mental, emotional, and spiritual health, because they all are interconnected. One affects the others, so if we focus only on one and expect the others to take care of themselves, well, we are most likely going to be in for a world of hurt and disappointment. When we are intentional in addressing all aspects of who we are as a person holistically, we can begin to experience that freedom, that capacity to make authentic and wise choices and respond rather than react. Having freedom does not mean that life will be without struggles and obstacles, and it won't happen overnight. Having freedom means that we are able to navigate life no matter what happens with a sense of integrity, wisdom, meaning, and purpose. Freedom asks that we learn how to discern our personal interior movements of the soul, If we want to be truly free, we will have to connect to ourselves. Acknowledge our emotions, receive them, feel them, and reflect on them. You may have noticed here in treatment that we are very interested in your feelings, and we talk about them frequently. Yes, I see some of you have been paying attention. That's because emotions are powerful tools. They are indicators of what is happening within us. And when we practice identifying them, allowing ourselves to feel them, which our substance blocked, we can begin to work with them rather than against them. That's a huge energy shift. And if we learn to accept our emotions as gifts in the human experience, we can partner with them in spiritually healthy ways. This facilitates a freedom of epic proportions. Now, we're going to need reminders, and we're not going to do it perfectly, and that's okay. The use of emotional energy will be vastly changed. And something else I want to touch on today when it comes to freedom is forgiveness. When we are bound by the shackles of unforgiveness, we are far from free. I'm not saying it's an easy or instantaneous process, but, and it is that, a process. And this includes self-forgiveness. Now, forgiving someone doesn't mean that we condone what happened or that we will forget. We do not have to tell someone that we have forgiven them or remain in relationship with that person. Forgiveness is for us, not for them. It is for us to stop carrying around that anger, that hurt, that resentment, that bitterness, because it's heavy and it wears us down. Not only that, those painful emotions leak into all other aspects of our lives until we acknowledge, feel, and release them via forgiveness. Freedom comes from that releasing, the heaviness being gone, not having to lug around all of those chains of bitterness. And it may take some time, but beginning the process is key. It doesn't matter how slowly we move toward a goal. The important thing is that we're moving in the right direction, moving toward freedom. Now, depending where you are in your recovery journey, you have or are working towards physical freedom from a substance. Your body and brain are not being dependent on that substance. That's what we're working towards. Healing in this aspect takes time. That's why we refer to it as a recovery journey, not a recovery event. This physical freedom is the first step, but not the last. On this journey, our paths take dealing with mental health, emotional well-being, and spiritual fitness, right? There are many paths that encompass all of those things. And these paths will look different for each person. And some paths will meander more than others depending on your needs. And that's okay. It will take as long as it takes. Recovery is a lot of things, but it's not a quick fix. It's a process, a lifelong process. Recovery becomes part of who we are, how we connect with ourselves, with others, with the world, and with something greater than us. So to close, I want to reiterate what was stated at the beginning of this message. True freedom encompasses more than just physical liberation. It extends into emotional, mental, and spiritual realms. The essence of freedom lies in the ability to express oneself authentically, to make choices aligned with one's true nature, and to pursue dreams without restraint. So we're going to take some time to reflect now, and I invite you to think about freedom in recovery and what that means to you right now, or what it might look like. And if you want to offer up a prayer, if that feels right, feel free to do that as well. So let's take a few moments.